Swan fires, lead magic. The wizard's wand fires lead magic.
Midnight wind whispers through the pines, shadowed hills where the lost sun hides. I close my eyes and I start to ride to the land where my dreams collide. Oh, take me where the moonlight bleeds across the fields of forgotten dreams. In haunted valleys I will roam, in magic lands I call my own.
Midnight highway black as a raven's wing, dust kicks up where forgotten bells still ring. Moonlight bleeds through the cracks in my mind, chasing shadows of a place I can't find. Heartbeat echoes in the hollers hollow, where dreams and nightmares learn to follow. There's a world just beyond our own, where the lost and restless roam. Get the wizard before he gets you, son, for you'll notch his pistol sure. Rust-stained roads and twisted pines hide old curses in crooked lines. I've seen his lantern burning cold, guiding souls to tales untold. Your reflections won't be the same when he calls you by your true name. There's a world just beyond our own, where the lost and restless roam. Get the wizard before he gets you, son, or you'll notch his pistol sure. Dreams bleed into the waking hours. Night extends its hungry towers. Truth and fear entwine their roots when shadows gather at your boots. When shadows gather at your boots.
Hey guys, good evening. Oh, let's see if we can get this thing off the screen this time. Remove some studio. There we go. Hey, good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. We'll have a little show tonight. I wanted to, first of all, one of the reasons I wanted to do a show tonight was to make sure as many people as possible join us Monday night, because I have a really good show here. Special guest on. His name is Ash Gaimani, I think is his last name. And his company, he has developed an artificial intelligence program that is marketed to law enforcement to help them solve cases, to help solve cold cases. And in particular, they've been using it by feeding it all of the information on the John Benet Ramsey case. So he's going to be on here Monday. He's been on, let's see, let me bring in this channel here to show some of the stuff that he's been on. Recently. All right, he's been on NBC.
Tonight on The Future of Everything, could algorithms hold the key to America's cold case backlog? Like, think decades of evidence decoded in just minutes or even hours, from missing loved ones to unsolved murders. More investigators are turning to AI, hoping to uncover clues that humans might have missed.
Maria Alves was 5 years old when she vanished from a local park.
It's one of Cleveland's most perplexing cold cases. Two friends shot execution style on a park bench in broad daylight.
We know that Seaman Angelina Petra Resendez was last seen in her barracks at Miller Hall Naval Station, Norfolk, Thursday night. The body found here Monday.
And those are really just a handful of cases where AI is sorting through thousands of files in the hopes of uncovering patterns and generating leads that could breathe new life into stalled investigations. Ash Kahimi is the founder of Crime Owl and joins us now live. So Ash, thank you.
So we'll cut that here. So we're going to this is Ash, who we're going to have on, who developed this program. It actually, my understanding is it uses a variety of AI tools, including what are called LLMs, large language models. And this is what most of us know as Chat GPT or Google's Gemini, programs like that. Those, that's just one type of artificial intelligence. That's the one that has been very popular recently. It does a certain type of thing, but he's layered into it a bunch of other types of artificial intelligence tools that he's going to explain to us how can be used to sort through all the noise to try to find patterns and hopefully find some, solve some cases here. So you guys can have your questions ready for him when he comes on. And so I'd appreciate you guys being here, because I have some other guests in the works that are in the realm of artificial intelligence. And it's hard to get them on if we have a small audience. So the larger the audience we have, the better the guests that we can get in here. And I've been talking to a few. So hopefully you guys can join us and ask him some questions and participate in this and make Ash feel welcome. That'll be Monday at 8:00. So the other announcement we have is I've been telling everybody, so we'll be covering the Brian Walsh trial completely. That starts December 1st. So I'm committed to being up every morning and watching the whole trial with you guys, or anybody that can watch it, and commenting on it and keeping people up to date. And we'll also be streaming this on Margaret's channel, Margaret McLean, at itsacrimemedia.com. It's a Crime Media, and also at Jen Coffenaffer's channel, Breaking the Case with Jen Coffenaffer. And the three of us and some others will be forming a panel of people that'll be coming in and out, including some lawyers and lawyers you've seen on Court TV and that kind of thing. So if you're interested in the case, please join us. It's an interesting case because it already was going to be one of those rare cases where you have someone charged with murder despite the fact that there's no body. So he's accused of killing his wife and the body has never been found. But now you had just this week, in the middle of jury selection, he pled guilty to disposing of the body. So how does that fit in here? So the trial is going to proceed. He did not plead guilty to the murder charge. So the jury is going to know that he's pled guilty to disposing of the body. And he not only disposed of it, but based on the evidence, he dismembered it, we would assume. I don't think he's had to explain to the court what he did with the body or anything like that. So, so I guess it's, how much is left to it? How much is a jury allowed to speculate? But he bought, a hacksaw and other types of tools like that you would use to dismember the body. Is the jury allowed to piece that together? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. And this is where the lawyers that will be joining us will be able to help us. I'm hoping. I just talked the other day to someone who I've become friendly with and who's been on the channel here before, retired Judge Caroline Erskine, and she's going to be covering this for local TV. But I'm hoping she'll be on the channel a little bit with us too, and she can educate us on the law on some of these things. Hopefully, I'll give her a call tomorrow and see if I can get her on for sure. We don't always agree on things, but she's a judge, so obviously a lawyer too, so she can explain a lot of this stuff where I don't really, I plead ignorant. So I try to think it through logically, but I don't know the law. So the law usually is very logical, and you can read how the law applies. And it's great to use these AI tools now too, because you can have kind of an active dialogue with ChatGPT, or I use Bing's Copilot, and it'll get you up to speed pretty quickly on not only what the law is, but what the law is in a particular state. So in this case, Massachusetts. So it doesn't mean you suddenly become a lawyer, but you can become much more informed on how it works and how to apply it. And it's very interesting. All right. We're not going to do a real long show, but one of the things that I wanted to do is, some of us, thank you very much, Broken Dogs. I appreciate it. Trying to read without my glasses. That's Bacon Dukes, actually. Thank you very much, Bacon Dukes. Without my eyes are getting worse lately, and without my glasses, I couldn't read what actually your name was. But thank you, I appreciate the support. So, we've tried to steer ourselves away from the Karen Read case as much as possible. There are other things in the world that people are interested in, but it just keeps coming back. Obviously, there are still interesting things going on, especially with these lawsuits. There are now 2 lawsuits filed. The O'Keefe family filed theirs last summer against Karen, and that's a wrongful death suit. And Karen has now filed lawsuits this week for civil rights violations, among other things. And the witnesses have not filed yet, but they were on the news on at least Channel 5 I saw this week, saying that they planned on filing defamation suits, I believe, against Karen Read. So there's a lot of lawsuits that'll be up in the air here, and some of them will be merged. I believe Karen's lawsuit will be merged with the O'Keefe's lawsuit. I'm not sure about that. So again, it's good to have the lawyers kind of get us up to speed on some of that as much as possible. And Karen will be forced to now be deposed under oath. So she may or may not have to take the stand, but she definitely will be forced to answer questions under oath. And she has lied, and she's been caught in lies. It's not just that she's told a varying story, but it's the fact that she claimed that while she was sitting there waiting for John, who she said she dropped off in the driveway and watched him walk into the house. Well, the GPS shows that the car never stopped. The car actually just slowed down and proceeded to, it didn't stop until it reached the flagpole, which is around where John's body was found. So she could not have stopped there, let John out, and watched him walk into the house. That's just a lie. In addition, she said while she was sitting there, she called and texted him numerous times. That's a lie. The phone company records show that she did not text or call anybody. The first phone call came when after she had gotten on the road to go back to John's house. In fact, in the lawsuit that she just filed, it lays out the case, their conspiracy theory, but it no longer says that they no longer claim that she was in the car texting and calling John, because when she made that claim at that time, she didn't know that the phone records were going to show that to be a lie. But now she knows, so they don't put it in there. But she can be confronted on that when she's under oath and say, why did you say that at one time? Why'd you say this? Why'd you say that? So she's going to have to answer those questions. And the jury is going to see what those answers are. Even if she's not on the stand, they will get to see what her deposition was. And those are going to have a big impact on how this plays out. Now, I was called this week for the first time since this summer to go on Court TV. I actually had not even been on since the verdict. The night of the verdict, nobody knew. I was on the night before the verdict. They brought me into Dedham. And I was not scheduled for the night that the verdict happened to come down. So I never actually got a chance to go back on court TV and give a reaction to the verdict or anything like that, which I felt was kind of unfortunate because me and Nick Rocco had been on and covered it so many times, and Joe, that really we all should have been on that night, at least at some level, to give a reaction to it. But they didn't do that. But I was surprised that they called me back this week, and that's because of the lawsuit. So I'm going to play a little bit of that here. So I was on with this. Nick Rocco was scheduled to be on. I don't know what happened. And then they had this woman, Rebecca, on. And I don't know much about her, but she plays the role of Nick Rocco. She only asks all the conspiracy questions. She doesn't strike me as someone that's interested in the truth. She's not asking both sides kind of questions. And then she did something the next day. She put on Twitter a clip in which she said, and she claims in the clip that I say that it was not unusual for Brian Higgins to throw out his phone and the SIM card from the phone in separate dumpsters. And I was kind of stunned because I never said that. I actually, to be honest, never even heard that until she posted it. Now, maybe she had said it on the show. Maybe we'll hear it when we go back. It didn't really register in my mind if she did. I just remember her saying something about Brian throwing out his phone on a military base. But she was rattling off all the different usual conspiracy things that have been talked about since the defense team was feeding this stuff to Turtle Boy on day one. But I never said that. I definitely never said that. And I don't have any reason to believe. There's no evidence that Brian Higgins did throw out his phone and his SIM card in a separate dumpster. I believe that Alan Jackson, when he had him on the stand in the first trial, may have asked him something to that effect, and then Brian Higgins said no. So that's it. Just because Alan Jackson asked a question, that doesn't suddenly make something evidence. So I don't know why Rebecca would insist that that's evidence. But anyway, she outright lied in saying that I said it was normal, because I never said that. I didn't even, to my knowledge, what I said was it was normal for Brian Higgins to throw his phone out on the military base because that's where he throws his trash out. And on the Cape Cod, there is no town trash pickup. And Brian Higgins, as someone who served his country in combat, has access to that base. It's a perk that military guys get. And he probably threw out a little bag of trash. Brian Higgins was living at home on the road a lot from his undercover work. He's living at home alone with no pets, no kids, no wife. He doesn't generate, I presume he doesn't generate a lot of garbage. And so he probably threw a small bag out on the base. And when he threw out his phone was in that bag. That's not the same as going to a base and destroying the phone the way they dramatically try to portray it. And so, but I don't really care for Rebecca just inserting words into my mouth like that. I find that to be really strange. So let's just play a little bit. I'll try to skip my answers, but maybe we'll play a little bit of Vinny's questions and Rebecca's responses. Okay.
Pointing to what she believes is a cover-up inside the tight-knit Albert and McCabe households where John O'Keefe was found. Now, after walking out of the courtroom after being found not guilty by a jury, Karen is headed back to court, filing sweeping civil lawsuit against the Alberts and McCabes and investigators, accusing them of civil rights violations, conspiracy, and destroying evidence. How much more will be revealed about what happened the night John O'Keefe died?
We have entered the next chapter of this case and the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe. And this is a significant difference now. We're in the civil world where there are a lot less restrictions on what sort of evidence can be gotten and how the world of discovery works. When I talk about discovery, I mean depositions, records, etc. So here you have Karen Reed and her defense team, and they have a brand new, not brand new, but they have a specific theory of what happened. And what's different here in the civil case is they're the plaintiffs, which is like being the prosecution, but in the civil case, they're the ones making allegations here. They're the ones who have to prove the allegations to win. Not just raise a doubt. No, they've got to prove these allegations to win their case. So during the course of this hour, we're going to take a look specifically at what their theory is and what their allegations are against the people they are suing, the Alberts, the McCabe's, and members of law enforcement. So let's begin. We're going to break it down piece by piece of this lawsuit, and we'll start with Karen Reed's version or theory on how her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, was killed. You're going to hear the actual words from the civil complaint read by one of our producers.
On the evening of January 28th, 2022, Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed went out for the night. There, they met up with a group of acquaintances, including Brian Albert, his wife Nicole Albert, Brian's brother Chris Albert, and his wife Julie, Jennifer McCabe, Nicole's sister, and Brian's sister-in-law, her husband Matthew McCabe, and Brian Higgins. The group of acquaintances had several drinks and planned to continue the party back at the Alberts home in Canton at 34 Fairview Road. The house defendant Jennifer McCabe told John O'Keefe that he should come to the house. Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe had never been to the house before January 29, 2022. They arrived in front of the Alberts home around 12:20 a.m. Ms. Reed was reluctant to attend the party for several reasons, including that she was unsure whether they were at the correct location and whether they were even welcome to the late-night party. Mr. O'Keefe got out of Ms. Reed's SUV and indicated that he would check out the party and report back to her. Mr. O'Keefe walked toward the front door garage area of the house and entered one of the two doors.
Okay, so again, just, it's not really specific here, but the GPS shows that Karen drove. She didn't stop until she got to the flag. So they're not being specific here, but what are they suggesting? That he got out at the flagpole area and then walked across the yard and Karen looked behind her to see it? She's going to have to answer questions like this because this doesn't match what she is saying here does not match the hard data.
Period of time passed without any word from Mr. O'Keefe. Ms. Reed, who was still hesitant to join, presumed that Mr. O'Keefe intended to stay, and therefore she left to go home without him. At some point,
and like I see, as I said before, she no longer is saying that she called or texted John. She's just saying she just went home.
After entering the house garage, Mr. O'Keefe was involved in a physical altercation, either inside the house or garage. During that altercation, the Alberts' German Shepherd attacked him, and Mr. O'Keefe sustained multiple dog bites and scratches on his right arm. He also suffered.
Just want to point out, we have never seen, any independent dog bite expert come forth into the public and say these look like dog bites. Not one. We've had Dr. Marie Russell that came forward, but she came forward to the defense. She came forward in unusual circumstances connected to where Alan Jackson used to work at the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. And there may have been, I think there was another, I think the defense had another expert that said they could resemble animal wounds, but these are defense experts. We have not had any independent of them. There must be hundreds or thousands of dog bite experts around the world, and they know this is a famous case. Not one of them has come forward onto Court TV or onto some other TV channel and said, I'm an expert in this, and these look like dog's bites. Not one.
An incapacitating contrecoup wound on the back of his head. Mr. O'Keefe's head wound was caused by falling backward and striking a rigid surface. The Alberts garage contains such surfaces. By contrast, the head wound could not have been caused by a vehicle strike or falling backward onto a flat, cold lawn like the Alberts. Because of their knowledge of criminal investigations, the Alberts, the McCabe's, and Higgins, House defendants, knew that calling for medical care to help save Mr. O'Keefe's life would trigger immediate and irreversible risk of their own criminal exposure. Therefore,
All right, so let's think this through, right? Let's say it really happened the way these imaginative people say it happened. That John came into the house or into the garage and was brutally attacked there by multiple guys, multiple strong guys in a fight who were punching him and slamming him, eventually slamming his head into something that led to the head wound, or slamming or hitting him on the back of the head with something. In addition, a dog attacks him. Now, after undergoing a vicious attack like that, do you think that these people would even think that there would be some way to hide that just by leaving this guy out on the lawn, on their own lawn? I mean, the only way to hide that would be to get rid of the body so that it was never found again. If a human being was actually attacked by multiple guys like that, multiple large guys, and then also by a dog in a mauling, there'd be no way to hide that from investigators. There'd be no way. John would have defensive wounds on him. John had no defensive wounds. He had no significant wounds on his hand. He had limited wounds. He only had a couple of mild scratches on his face. He didn't have a broken nose. He didn't have any signs of being struck in the eyes. No split lips. He had no signs of being in a fight at all. If John had been in the kind of fight that they imagine here, he would have had those signs. And they never would have had the idea that they could just leave him on the lawn and say what? It doesn't make it. It's absurd. And I don't really it's so absurd that I don't really understand why anybody would believe it.
At least the 5 of them agreed on a simple plan to exonerate themselves and implicate Ms. Reed. They would tell anyone who inquired Mr. O'Keefe never entered the house and hide evidence that he was there, including his body. Sometime during the night, they
And let me just talk a moment let me just build on what I just said there too. So when I first started covering this case, and you can go back and look at the older videos in my channel. This is before I was even doing live shows. These were videos that I would make up. I lean towards there being a conspiracy. All right. So am I a hypocrite by saying, how could anybody believe what this absurd theory here? Well, in those early months, I was asking these same questions that I am now. And I did believe that the theory about what happened to John didn't make sense. I didn't think it made any sense to me. And I was asking those questions, especially talking about it with other people that were investigating this crime with me and other people that were part of this channel and other police officers and stuff. I was asking these questions. It didn't make sense to me. However, when we were told that 227 was just a simple reality, that Jen McCabe had made that search for how long to die in the cold at 227, and we were told that the state didn't dispute that. That was just data that was on the phone that they were able to capture later on. Well, to me, had that actually been the case, had Jen actually made that search at 227, then there would have to have been something that went on here. And I couldn't make sense of it. So that's where I was in May and June of that year. Nothing about the theory made sense to me, and I asked questions and I couldn't piece it together. But then I would say to myself, well, something must have happened because Jen made that weird search at 227. So something must have happened. But then we found out later on that there were other experts and the state disputed that she made that search. And we now know that she didn't. So I was asking those questions, and you can go back and look initially because my videos lean towards Karen being framed here. I grew initially very popular with that crowd, very popular. And it's nice to be popular. Who doesn't want to be popular, right? And the team that I built around me at the channel were all free Karen Reed people. Every one of them were pro Turtle Boy, and and pro Karen. And the way it worked out, there was really no other. We now know there's so many grifting YouTube channels that are covering this, but back then it was just pretty much Turtle Boy and me. And but then as I brought on Dave McGrath and Aaron Warschauer on, and they were diehard Freak Aaron Reed, I kept asking questions more and more, because that's my nature, to keep asking questions. And people on the FKR side were no longer trusted me, because they didn't like the fact that I was asking questions. So I might ask these questions like, why would the people in the house leave John still alive on their own lawn, as opposed to putting him in the street or putting him in the neighbor's yard or finishing him off to make sure he was dead? I would ask all of those questions, and they didn't like it. They don't like questions on the other side. They like faith. You're supposed to have faith in the belief system that they've built up here. And I kept asking questions. So they got mad and they started coming after me and starting posts in their Facebook page saying there's something wrong with Kevin Lenahan. His brain doesn't work. And, Dave and Erin should break off and make their own channel, and which eventually did happen. And, but that's the history of it. But I never stopped asking. These things never made sense to me. And once I knew that 227 was at the very least in question, more and more, none of this made sense to me. And then what finally pushed me over the edge for the good was when I found out where the vehicle was all day, and what time the police and what the circumstances were in which they found the main taillight piece. Because this is one thing there are certain things that can be fundamental in a case, and you're lucky. Not some cases you don't have it in, but sometimes you can have that fundamental if-then. Like, if this is true, then this can't be true, and if it's not true, then that has kind of a pivot point. And the pivot point here was, if there was no way to plant evidence, then Karen struck John. If evidence was not planted by somebody, whether the state troopers, the Canton police, a neighbor, somebody, then Karen was guilty, because those taillight pieces that were found, indisputably, when reassembled, matched Karen's SUV. So the key was, could somebody have had access to Karen's vehicle and managed to get to the crime scene and bury those pieces so that they were found by the state police CERT team at ground level? They were found in the gutter, 3 feet down, under 3 feet of snow. If that was not possible, then butt dials don't matter. Anything else odd that might turn up in this case doesn't matter, because there was no way to plant the evidence. That was the key. It's fundamental. All right, let's go back.
Positioned a Ford Edge vehicle at a spot adjacent to the front lawn, which obscured the view of that area of the lawn from potential passersby. At some point further in the night, they carried or dragged Mr. O'Keefe's body to that same area in the yard, close to where one or more of them later claimed.
I mean, she's reading from a document that Karen's legal team, I can't believe lawyers would put something like this out there. There's not any evidence for any of that. That's just fiction. Hey, I write fiction. It's nothing wrong with fiction in this place. But there's no evidence. There's nothing even that leaned towards any. There's no evidence John was in the garage. GPS shows John never went in or in the direction of the house. There's no evidence that anybody moved John, dragged his body. His phone was found where it last moved at 12:32 and 16 seconds, which was just a few seconds after Karen had been going high speed in reverse in that very spot. That phone was found underneath John. So how did the phone get there? And because it had to have landed there by 12:32 and 16 seconds, because it never moved again. So how did the phone get there at that exact time after Karen went in reverse? And then what's the theory? That John went into the house without his phone, and then the killers dragged him out alive and left him right on top of his phone? How did they know to do that? See, questions like this is something that these people aren't capable of asking. And you'll see Rebecca, who I was up against, she doesn't ask questions like that because she's not interested in the truth.
claimed Ms. Reed dropped off Mr. O'Keefe earlier that night. The plan was devised to make it appear that Mr. O'Keefe had been struck by Ms. Reed's vehicle and then died as a result of exposure to the cold. Mr. O'Keefe was either dead when the House defendants left him on the Alberts lawn, or he died shortly thereafter.
This is a very specific story and brings us to the first question in our investigation. Does the evidence support this theory of how John O'Keefe was killed? There have been 2 trials already, and a lot of evidence that's come out that didn't even get into the trial as well. Here to help answer that question, we've got journalist, host of the new YouTube series, Something's Off. Rebecca Lavoie is with us, and YouTuber and author of Storm of Suspicion, the Karen Reed Trials, Kevin Lenahan. Kevin, you're gonna have to add another chapter after this 3rd trial to your book. All right, let's go at it. Rebecca, what do you think? Does the evidence support this very specific theory of what happened to John O'Keefe?
Well, as you said, we haven't seen all the evidence yet. There was a tremendous amount of evidence that was suppressed by Judge Beverly Cannoni, who, by the way, just signed an order to make public the many sidebars, except for ones involving jurors in the trial. So we're going to learn more, I think, very soon about conversations at the stand about what we weren't allowed to see, medical evidence, testing done at the house and in the garage by the defense team, more dog bite testimony, more medical testimony from other experts. I think that there is a lot there. What we know is that he was not hit by a car. No doctor will actually say that he was hit by a car and his injuries match that, including the medical examiner. And we know that he has wounds on his arm that are dog bites and scratches. So, what we have here is much closer, I think, to what the prosecution said during trial, which was that she hit him with his car.
Kevin, what do you
All right, so that's her thing there. We'll skip over my answer if I can. Try to get back to let's see if we can get to her next.
Thermia. And when I think about what a jury in a civil trial considers, they consider the what's more likely. And what is more likely? That somebody with no bruises, no broken bones.
But we have enough here to know what happened.
Rebecca, your thoughts about Kevin's view of the evidence?
Yeah, I think it's kind of ironic that we would talk about cherry picking evidence when we're talking about greatly disputed digital evidence that was sort of worked backward into a timeline multiple times by the prosecution. I do not think that the key cycle evidence, the GPS evidence, the timing evidence has in any way been thoroughly proven. We've got experts saying they mean different things. We do know that John O'Keefe had a head wound from hitting something either sharp or ridged on the back of his head. We do know that he had no broken bones, no bruising below the neck. We know that he did not die of hypothermia. And when I think about what a jury in a civil trial considers, they consider the what's.
How do we know that he did not die of hypothermia? The medical examiner basically said you can't determine exactly what the cause of death was. There were signs of hypothermia in his organs, the hemorrhaging in his organs. What this basically means is that you could have someone that you could have someone that video shows gets beat up over a period of time by a group of people, and we know that person died from the wounds that they got from being beat up. But if those wounds are a variety of wounds, it's possible for a medical examiner to also say at the same time that she doesn't know the cause of death, the exact cause of death, because it could be a multitude of things that could have caused it. So the medical examiner here did not know the exact cause of death, whether it was the head wound or whether it was hypothermia or some combination of that. That's all that she was saying. She never said that John did not die of hypothermia. So I don't know where Rebecca gets this stuff from, but.
More likely. And what is more likely? That somebody with no bruises, no broken bones, no hypothermia died by being hit by a car, or that somebody with a head wound and other indications of a tussle, including dog bites, died in a different way. And I think it's pretty clear which way I would go if I.
Plus, I guess she's saying that because she's trying to imply that John did not have hypothermia. Now, while the medical examiner did not say that John died of hypothermia, the medical examiner certainly said that John had hypothermia. She described it very vividly in the like I said, in the what was seen in the organs and the hemorrhaging inside the organs that she described as classical signs of hypothermia. So there's no question that John was outside in the cold long enough to get hypothermia. That's not in dispute, although Rebecca doesn't seem to understand it because it doesn't fit her theory that John was brought out, I guess, an hour before he was found or something like that. In fact, at one point back in the early coverage of this, when Turtle Boy was the only one covering it, he even tried to come up to float the possible idea that John was kept in the backyard behind the house and then brought out later, because he was trying to match up the fact that they wanted to make it seem like John was brought out later on, and that's what Lucky saw. But at the same time, they had to accept the fact that there was hypothermia. So they tried to suggest that John was put in the backyard, and so he got hypothermia because he was behind the house for several hours. So I don't really understand where Rebecca. She is trying to cherry pick the little things that she wants, that she knows will help her channel grow, which is to back up this crowd on this theory. Now, that said, it is a problematic part of this case, John's injuries. They're not fully... John's injuries, if we're going to be honest about it, were never fully satisfactorily explained in either trial. That doesn't mean we don't have enough evidence to show that Karen struck him. It just means, unfortunately, the circumstances in which it happened, there's no witnesses, there's no video, and it just isn't exactly clear exactly what happened to him. He does have it is unusual for someone to be involved in a pedestrian strike with an SUV, and they have limited injuries. He has an abrasion on one knee, he has shallow abrasions on one arm, and then he has a wound in the back of the head that the state doesn't even claim was caused by the vehicle. It was caused by the ground. So it's unusual that you're talking about a pedestrian collision that has very limited injuries. That's very unusual. That's by itself, that's going to start to look like an uphill battle for a prosecution to be able to prove. Now, because of all the other evidence we have, at the end, there is no other possibility, because we know that from the GPS, which is not actually in dispute, like Rebecca is, she allows the defense team to cloud the issues for some reason, but the GPS was clear that John did not go in the house. There was nothing unclear about it. They start arguing over little. They try to cast doubt on it by questioning semantics on little things, and this is what a defense team's job is to do, is to try to create doubt on little things like that. But they didn't. There is no doubt on the GPS. Nobody seriously went up there and created doubt and put any kind of holes in the state's argument on the GPS, despite what Rebecca said. And the GPS shows that John never went in the house and never was seen going in the direction of the house. His last known GPS position was by the flagpole, which they reached at about 12:24 and a half minutes. And that's presumably where Karen and John sat there arguing for a while. And then that's more or less the last position where the phone is found, in that same GPS position. Now, within that time, there is a 4-second period where the signal weakens enough that the margin of error, when the signal weakens, the margin of error expands, and that margin of error expanded enough to include the house, but only a 4-second period. But there's never a point where it shows a ping where John's moving in the direction of the house or moving in any other direction or walking up the street. There's no ping like that. And the 4 seconds inside the house, you'd have to believe that he somehow flew from where he was into the house, got beat up, mauled by a dog, and then flew back to end up on top of his phone, all in 4 seconds. It's not reasonable to believe these kind of things. So, and that's not the only evidence. The other hard data shows that Karen took a 3-point turn on Cedar Crest because she missed the turn onto Fairview. And then 8 minutes and 4 seconds later, she punched it in reverse. And a few seconds after that is 12:32:16, where John's phone stopped moving for the last time. And all kinds of music's chick. I just happened to glance down. So you say hi. So hi to you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. So that was my most recent experience on Court TV. But it's frustrating to see that so many of the things that still get put out, that were put out all the way back by this defense team through Turtle Boy in April of 2023, are still being put out as though they're a mystery. And most of these things have been debunked, not all of them. In any case, there are always going to be some odd things that never get fully explained to everybody's satisfaction. That's just the nature of the beast. We'll never know. There are butt dials and things like that in every case. And you don't know what they are at the end of the day. You can't get a full explanation. And sometimes odd things can be meaningful. But if you have enough other solid evidence, it can render those things meaningless. And that's what's happened here. And I explained in my book, I debunked so many of these things. And all Rebecca has to do is read the book. I'd happy to give her a signed copy and see how these things are debunked. But again, this is the problem with a lot of these people. They're not really interested in the truth. And they're just trying to exploit something that will help them build their YouTube channel. And I could have gone that route, and I decided I don't want to do that. Because this is not like, I was willing to speculate in the Lizzie Borden case. And I speculated on a figure that was the first man into the house after the bodies were discovered by Lizzie. And there's no reason to believe that that man committed those crimes, but he was someone who was familiar with the house, had been in it before to buy farm goods. So he knew the layout of the house, and he was the first man in the house. And then he was stationed there by the police, even though he was not a cop, but he stayed there for several hours. So I posited a theory that maybe he was the killer, right? Now, I can do that because this man has been dead a century. I'm not hurting him. I'm not hurting anybody else in that case with my speculations. But when you look at a case like this, you speculate on things, you got to be careful, because the people that you're talking about are real people. The investigators, the lawyers, but most especially the witnesses. They are real people. And you want to speculate just so you can build your YouTube channel and make it interesting and throw it out there that they're murderers. Well, you have to have, if you don't have a conscience, if you do that without asking fair questions about trying to get to the truth. And I have seen no sign that Rebecca or Nick or any of these people are interested in the truth, because they don't even report to you things that, or Turtle Boy or any of these other channels that showed up, Mike Crawford. They've never had any interest in the truth. And I'm not saying that to be bitter or something like that. No, I could care less. But it's frustrating. It's a little disappointing that that's what we live in. That's the kind of world we live in, that this many people will want to take advantage of that situation. Howie Carr, Sue O'Connell, people that just want to exploit, accusing people that they should at least take the position might be innocent. And we know they are innocent, but if you start out looking into something, you should at least take the position that they might be innocent, and you better damn ask the right questions and try to ask questions in a both sides kind of way to get to the truth before you start making accusations or innuendo. And none of these people do that. And that's frustrating. And it's unfortunately, it's destroying a lot of lives, people that are innocent that haven't done anything wrong. So, why are there two streams showing this? That's interesting. Why are there two? Where are the two streams? Are there two streams on my channel, you mean? Let me check that out. The StreamYard has been creating two streams sometimes when I link to another channel, and I don't know why that is. Let's see. Huh. I'm going to my channel and it's not showing any stream showing. I go to the live and there's actually nothing showing. That doesn't make sense. Oh, and you're right. It does show two streams here. One that has 63 people watching and the other one that has 47 people watching on the YouTube anyways. You can always, so I apologize. This seems to be a StreamYard problem because I don't know what's going on. This has been creating this lately when I hit create, and all I did was create one. I don't know why it creates two. And I guess I don't know maybe I should have noticed that before the show started and deleted it. I don't know. So right now the audience is somewhat split. And the thing that's unfortunate about that is that means you guys can't see all of the so your comments are split. You're not able to see comments, I don't think, for each other. So if you're in the channel that shows 47 watching, maybe leave that one and go over to the one that shows 63 watching, and then we'll all be commenting in the same channel. This is StreamYard doing this, not me, so I apologize for it, though. We'll try to, I don't know what to do to fix it, but we better get to the bottom of it. Yeah, I don't know why it keeps. So, Ala, if you're at the 47, maybe just go to the channel and look to the other one and switch over to the other one. It's up to you. But if everybody switches to the other one, we'll have the same comments all in the. Yeah, I mean, it matters a little bit because you all want everybody's comments to be seen. If for the people that are participating in chat, it matters. So, it shouldn't be doing that, but it did that last week too. I thought it was just when I was doing. Margaret was doing the show, and I was just joining my stream to hers. But now I see it's doing it even by myself. So I don't. This is obviously a StreamYard problem, and I don't know why it's doing this. I'll have to I don't know. I'll see if I can contact somebody from there tomorrow after the show because we don't want this to be a continuing problem. All right. Well, let me do my best to look through the comments and see if there's any questions. I can see all of the comments. All right. So does anybody have any comments or questions about what's going on, whether it's about this case or about what we're doing with the Brian Walsh coverage, or we got the AI guest coming on, and I also have another guest who's scheduled a little bit down the road, who's his company is involved with using artificial intelligence for advanced drug development for diseases like cancer and stuff like that. I think Ayla says we're seeing both sets of comments. All right. Yeah, this is very weird. I don't know what this is. Pat says, just left the 47 chat room. It's a totally different background on that stream, too. Well, that's weird. It's like we have Bizarro World chat. Is one of them in vertical? I don't know what that means. View on YouTube vertical. I think that's the problem. All right. All right. They have this. I know how to fix this now. They added this new thing where you can set up the show so that it's in both vertical or horizontal. And vertical, I presume, would be for people that want to watch it on their phones or something like that. So I won't set it up like this again. I will get rid of I just followed the suggestions of StreamYard, and that's how I set it up. But that currently is the wrong way to go. I do like the parallel universes idea better. That will be more fun. What do I think of Cosgrove not answering Aiden's motion? I did see that Aiden had written that on Twitter, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know. I'm not certainly not privy to what's going on inside the special prosecutor's office. I have no idea. Everything that has gone on in the prosecution there seems to be, I mean, that office truly does seem to be effed up. They seem to be completely disorganized and have no idea what they're doing. That's what it seems to me from the outside, but what do I know? Yeah, Safari. We're still going to do Lizzie Borden. I want to set up, maybe do like a Lizzie Borden week, but I may have to wait until after the Walsh trial because that's going to be a lot of work covering that trial because we have to cover it all day. So I don't know if I want to do too many night shows during that period. Hope you understand. But yes, I do definitely do. The Lizzie Borden case is fascinating, and there's a lot to be learned from the Lizzie Borden case that we can apply to other cases, including Karen Reed case or any modern case. So it's yes, Audrey, I am a Massachusetts man all my life. Is that a bad thing? I guess it's sometimes a bad thing. But yes, Safari, definitely interested to see your theories on that too when we do it. And actually, if you're interested, I'm thinking about doing a podcast series on it that would just be put on a podcast channel. And I want to include some audio of me and other people discussing the case if you have any interested in participating in that. Oh, Audrey's in Charlestown. I used to live in Charlestown, right down from the monument. You could see that big old monument right outside our back porch. Any comments on Lindsey, Grant, and Turtle Boy and Kate? Well, there's a lot of nuttiness that goes. Anything to do with Grant is crazy. It's just plain crazy. So I try not to get those things will sort themselves out. I don't know if he'll sort himself out because he's crazy, but it's too bad because he's got an intelligent mind, but he's crazy. What are Karen's civil trials being separated? Well, there's three different trials that'll be going on. There'll be Karen suing the state and some of the witnesses for civil rights violations. The O'Keefe family is suing Karen for wrongful death, and according to the story on the news, pretty soon the witnesses will be suing Karen for defamation. So 2 of those will be merged, but not 3. Yes, Cindy, we're going to keep working at it. And I'm interested in the AI topic and everything that can be used, whether it's for medicine development or particularly that, but also for, I like this idea of there's also some risks with this too, but using AI to solve or help as a tool for crime solving. Will prosecutors be allowed to tell the jury Walsh's recent conviction and plea? That's a really good question, and I was thinking that too. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so those are something that we can ask the lawyers that we have on that'll be helping us with the coverage. At the moment, things are on hold, anything to do with Sandra Crispo, but we still keep that in the works. So if anybody, I still would like that neighbor that had talked to me last spring to reach out again if she happens to listen. So please reach out. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Molly. Karen is suing Tully, Buchanan, and Proctor in their personal capacity. That's true. What are my feelings about the dude? This is Joe. You're talking about Adam Deitch running for Norfolk DA. So I actually reached out to his campaign to see if he wanted to come on to the show. And they got back to me and, said they'll think about it, I guess. They're just getting started. So I don't know. Be a little surprised if they would. But no, I think it's it's dirty what went on there in the U.S. Attorney's Office. I've been focused on that for 2 years, as anybody that's been following here knows. And they have a lot of questions to answer. And it's very difficult to make the feds answer questions. It's disappointing that the media won't go after them. There's a real story here. I know a lot. And if anybody in the mainstream media is listening to this that has more resources than me, please get in touch with me because I have more that I can give you. What the U.S. Attorney's Office did was just plain dirty, and it's ongoing. It's ongoing. Now we hope that the new U.S. attorney, Leah Foley, is cleaning it up. We don't know. We don't know that, and she may just be trying to cover this up further so that nothing makes the office look bad. She's done the right thing in some ways in stopping this investigation and pushing. We know she's pushed out of office several people that involved in that wrongdoing, including the one that's running for DA, Adam Deitch. He was pushed out of office. But so hopefully they're doing the right thing there. But it's mind blowing that this guy was pushed out of office by the U.S. attorney after only being there for 6 years, and now he's running for DA on a platform trying to exploit the popularity of the Karen Reed case and the belief that there was some big conspiracy there and that the feds were close to uncovering it. No, the feds were the ones that screwed this up. The feds were the ones that screwed this up. And nobody's safe when you live. The federal government is very powerful. And nobody's safe when the federal government can just do what they want. Nobody's safe for any party, any side. And the federal government is largely unaccountable. So, yeah, I personally believe that Adam Deitch, the former assistant U.S. attorney who questioned Colin Albert on the stand, who is now running for DA's office, I believe he's been in contact with Karen Reed's defense team and Karen Reed's family, and is still in contact with them. In fact, his announcement for running for that office strangely coincided with her lawsuit. So he's dirty. He's about as dirty as it gets in that office. But how's it going to get cleaned up? Until somebody from the mainstream media starts asking questions, it's not. I'm too small. I'm just a YouTube channel. But this isn't what people want. You know, people want the conspiracy that they've bought into, and it's a game of numbers at this point. So, all right, guys. So let's humor me a moment, and we'll talk about the Patriots since it's been an hour, and it's probably time to wrap this baby up. Tomorrow, the Patriots play the very bad Cincinnati Bengals. They should get a win, but it's pretty exciting to have the Patriots back. Seem to be heading back into the territory they were once in. Now, it's far from a sure thing that they will ever win a Super Bowl under Drake May, or they will ever be in that situation where they were before, where you can almost count on them at least being in the AFC Championship game. But boy, it looks promising. It looks like that we could be heading in that direction, right? Drake May has shown tremendous growth this year. That's the most. There's many impressive things about Drake May, but watching every game and seeing his learning process and seeing him grow from game to game has been the most impressive part of it for me. The way he stays calm in the pocket, and the way he makes decisions. So that game is on tomorrow at 1 p.m. And so I just wanted to come in and share my Saturday night a little bit with you guys for a little while, and I wanted to hopefully make sure that you guys will join us Monday night at 8:00 for my special guest here, whose company is using AI for crime solving. So look into it and have your questions ready that you can add in chat. We'll fix this double window alternate universe chat problem by then. We will fix that. Yes, Vrabel's much more likable than Bill Belichick for sure, and it seems like that's the kind of change that was also needed too. You know, so yeah, I had hoped they brought in Vrabel last year, but maybe it's worked out better that they brought him in this year because we ended up getting another high draft pick because of it last year. So, Pat, if you're Pat, thank you for agreeing to join us Monday. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you. Look forward to seeing everybody then, and enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.